Most people missed the real AI revolution, the Colgate case study. Most people completely missed what just happened in the world of artificial intelligence. If you've been scrolling through tech Twitter or LinkedIn lately, you might have seen viral posts claiming that AI can now perfectly predict consumer behavior. They're talking about a recent breakthrough involving the consumer goods giant Colgate-Palmolive and a data science firm called PyMC Labs. The headlines scream things like, AI reaches 90% accuracy in replacing human surveys, or the end of market research. But almost everyone sharing those posts completely misunderstood the story. They think this is a story about AI taking surveys. They think we just built a smarter, more empathetic robot that knows exactly how a 34-year-old making $40,000 a year feels about a new tube of whitening toothpaste. It isn't. This is actually a story about changing the measurement, not changing the model. It's a masterclass in AI engineering that proves the biggest bottlenecks in tech right now aren't caused by stupid AI. They're caused by humans asking the wrong questions. To understand why this matters, we have to look at why every single previous attempt to create synthetic consumers failed miserably. For years, major brands have desperately wanted to use AI for market research. Think about how expensive it is to launch a new product. If you're Colgate or Procter & Gamble or Apple, you don't just guess what people want. You hire market research firms. They recruit hundreds of real humans, put them in rooms or send them digital surveys, and ask them to evaluate packaging, pricing, and product concepts. It takes weeks, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it limits how many ideas a company can test. So, when large language models burst onto the scene, data scientists tried a very obvious workflow. They would prompt the AI like this: pretend you are a 34-year-old retail worker earning $40,000 a year. Rate this new, eco-friendly toothpaste concept on a scale of 1 to 5. It sounds logical, right? But the results were a disaster. LLMs absolutely hate giving calibrated numbers. When you force a language model to act like a human and pick a number on a Likert scale, something strange happens. It doesn't behave like a human population. Instead, the data collapses toward the middle of the scale. If you ask 1,000 synthetic consumers to rate a product from 1 to 5, each has an surdion. On mod beter dentau. Each has an minor file resorin. Commodity durant. Defsazen shagaver ipri negative kitty sort get a 3 or out of 4. It completely eliminates the edge cases, the people who would love it and the people who would absolutely hate it. Researchers call this central tendency bias. Because of this bias, the data was useless. It produced flat, unrealistic distributions. For a long time, the consensus was clear: AI just isn't human enough to simulate consumer sentiment. But the problem wasn't that the AI couldn't understand the product. The problem was that humans were forcing a master storyteller to communicate only in Morse code. We were taking a model built for rich, high-dimensional natural language and forcing it to spit out a single, rigid integer. And that is where PyMC Labs and Colgate stepped in with a breakthrough that changed everything. Instead of trying to force the AI to build a smarter mathematical brain, the researchers changed the methodology entirely. They invented a system called Semantic Similarity Rating, or SSR. Here is how it works. Instead of asking the AI to give me a 4, the researchers gave the AI the creative freedom to do what it does best. They simply asked it, "Tell me what you think." Free from the constraints of a 1 to 5 scale, the LLM generated natural language. It acted like a real human would in a focus group. It said things like, "I'd probably buy this because it seems effective, although the price is a little high." Or, "The packaging looks sleek, but I'm worried the flavor might be too intense." This text is rich. It has nuance, hesitation, and context. But text alone doesn't give a data scientist a metric they can plug into a spreadsheet. You still need a number. So how do you get a number out of that text without asking the AI to choose one? You let the mathematics of vector embeddings do the heavy lifting. When the AI generates a response, that text is converted into an embedding, a string of numbers that represents its semantic meaning in a high-dimensional space. The researchers also created reference statements, or anchors. These are predetermined sentences that represent the extremes of the scale, like, "I completely hate this product," or "I would buy this immediately." By calculating the mathematical distance, specifically the cosine similarity, between the AI's natural response and these reference statements, the system calculates a highly precise, continuous score. The AI never chooses a number. The math does. By treating the LLM as a generator of semantic data rather than a calculator, they unlocked something incredible. When PyMC Labs and Colgate-Palmolive evaluated this new SSR method, they didn't just test it on a whim, they ran a massive validation study. They used 57 real consumer surveys, comprising over 9,300 human responses across multiple personal care product concepts. They wanted to see if the synthetic consumers using SSR could actually mirror real human data. The results were stunning. The system achieved about 90% of human test-retest reliability. It achieved a Kolmogorov-Smirnov distribution similarity greater than 0.85, which is a fancy statistical way of saying the shape of the AI's data matched the shape of human variance. It captured the people who loved it, the people who hated it, and everyone in between. And as a bonus, it provided rich qualitative explanations alongside those numerical ratings. This was miles ahead of traditional direct prompting, but this is also where we need to address what those viral internet posts got completely wrong. People saw that 90% figure and started screaming that AI reached 90% accuracy in predicting human behavior. That is not what the paper claims at all. The paper measures statistical agreement metrics, distribution similarity, correlation with human responses, and reliability. It means the system of generating and measuring data behaves with the same statistical integrity as a human study. It does not mean the AI is a crystal ball that correctly predicts the future 90% of the time. Understanding that distinction is the difference between falling for tech hype and actually understanding the utility of AI. So, what does this actually change? If this technology is successfully implemented, how does it reshape the business world? Consumer research is traditionally a massive bottleneck because of cost and scale. If a marketing team has 50 different ideas for a new packaging design, they can't afford to run 50 different human focus groups. They have to use their intuition to whittle those 50 ideas down to 2 or 3, and then test those. SSR completely flips that framework. Now companies can use synthetic consumers to screen hundreds of ideas simultaneously before spending a single dollar on a human study. They can test 50 different pricing hypotheses. They can evaluate 100 variations of an advertising message. They can run massive scale exploration for pennies on the dollar. It turns market research from a slow, late-stage verification process into a rapid, early-stage exploration tool. But let's be very clear about what will not disappear. If you think this kills the market research industry, you are thinking way too small. No Fortune 500 company is ever going to greenlight a billion-dollar product launch based entirely on the opinions of a synthetic consumer. The stakes are simply too high. Companies will always need real humans for the final mile. You cannot simulate a taste test. You cannot simulate clinical validation for a health claim. You cannot perfectly predict local regulatory hurdles, deep cultural nuances, or regional preferences with text embeddings alone. And perhaps most importantly, a synthetic consumer cannot stand up in a court of law to defend a legal or advertising claim. Synthetic consumers become the filter. Real humans remain the final judge. Ultimately, the Colgate and PyMC Labs study matters because it teaches us one of the biggest lessons in modern AI engineering. Right now, whenever a company encounters a problem with an LLM, their immediate reflex is to throw more computing power at it. They think, the AI gave us a bad response, so we need to fine-tune a bigger model. We need to wait for GPT-5 or Claude 4. We need more parameters. But this paper proves that sometimes you don't need a smarter model, you just need a smarter evaluation method. PyMC Labs didn't invent a groundbreaking new neural network. They used existing LLM capabilities, but they stopped treating the model like a traditional piece of software that outputs rigid integers. They respected the nature of the technology they were working with. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough in tech isn't building a larger model, it's simply learning how to ask a better question.